Navigating Paths Amidst Chaos. The questions raised by Thomas Pynchon's The Crying of Lot 49 in life. We constantly encounter numerous questions: who am I? What is truth? How does the world work? Sometimes, even the questions themselves feel burdensome and difficult to bear. Especially in an era where distinguishing between real and fake information is challenging due to an overload of data, we find ourselves in a complex situation. Today, I would like to introduce you to a somewhat unfamiliar and difficult book, Thomas Pynchon's The Crying of Lot 49. This book will not only provide an engaging narrative but also raise essential questions that help us understand the world and reflect upon our own lives. Most people tend to associate the words knowledge or cultivation with complex theories or historical facts. However, I believe true knowledge and cultivation go beyond simply simplifying or memorizing complex ideas. Instead, they involve understanding the world's complexity and searching for a personal meaning within it. The Crying of Lot 49 invites us exactly into this process. This book offers a reading experience you may never have encountered before. Though it might sometimes feel confusing or awkward, it will allow you to discover the seeds of new thoughts within that confusion. 1. The beginning of chaos in The Crying of Lot 49. This novel begins in 1960s California with a seemingly ordinary housewife named Oedipa Maas, who was unexpectedly named the executor of the will of her former lover and wealthy businessman, Pierce Inverarity. What begins as a simple task quickly pulls Oedipa into an unimaginably vast mystery. While sorting through Inverarity's estate, she discovers traces of a mysterious organization known as Trastero. Trastero is described as a secret postal organization that either competed with or was persecuted by the Thurn and Taxis, a major European postal system. However, the Trastero Oedipa discovers is not merely a historical legend. It appears to be embedded into modern American society through cryptic messages, symbols, and networks. In particular, the symbol of a muted post horn repeatedly appears in unexpected places, such as trash cans, bathroom walls, and bar signs, drawing Oedipa deeper into a web of suspicion. To investigate this mystery, Oedipa meets various individuals and scours countless documents, eventually hypothesizing that Trastero might not just be a relic of the past but a subterranean network connecting the marginalized, the oppressed, and those on the fringes of society. These groups seem to communicate in their own ways, resisting the information flows of mainstream society. Oedipa constantly questions whether what she encounters is an actual widespread conspiracy or just a paranoid delusion or an elaborate prank. The novel concludes with Oedipa waiting for the auction of the mysterious item 49. This item is seemingly a crucial clue related to Trastero, yet Pynchon leaves the mystery unresolved, offering no clear answers. In this way, The Crying of Lot 49 thoroughly immerses readers in a labyrinth of confusion from beginning to end. The narrative is fragmented, the characters eccentric, and the events often tied together not through logic, but through coincidence and suspicion. However, it is precisely this confusion that makes the book so compelling and serves as a starting point for profound insight. 2. Key insights from the novel. What is truth? Thomas Pynchon's concise yet dense novel raises fundamental questions about modern society and human existence. These questions are not limited to 1960s American society but also speak powerfully to us in the 21st century. The relativity of truth and the chaos of information. The most central question posed is, what is truth? Oedipa desperately tries to prove Trastero's existence but finds all the information she gathers ambiguous, conflicting, and sometimes even fabricated. Every clue she discovers mirrors the next, obscuring the true nature of reality. Today, we live in an ocean of information, yet the more knowledge we access, the more we are confronted with fake news, conspiracy theories, and biased information. Distinguishing reliable information from that which is created with ulterior motives is no easy task. Decades ago, Pynchon already anticipated this information chaos in his novel. The Crying of Lot 49 warns us against passively accepting information and highlights the importance of critical thinking, questioning, examining information from multiple angles, and remaining open to multiple interpretations rather than clinging to a single, absolute truth. B. The psychology of paranoia and conspiracy theories. As the story progresses, Oedipa becomes increasingly paranoid, unable to determine whether the events she experiences are part of an overarching conspiracy or mere coincidences or hallucinations. This psychological state is not unfamiliar to modern society. In the face of instability and unpredictable events, people tend to believe there are hidden forces or secret groups manipulating everything behind the scenes. The novel carefully portrays how conspiracy theories form and affect individual psychology. Through this story, we come to understand that conspiracy theories are not merely baseless fabrications but can also represent a human tendency to simplify the world's complexities and impose meaning upon them. At the same time, the book warns against becoming too deeply entangled in such theories, which could disconnect us from reality and trap us within our own isolated world. The key lies in maintaining a balanced approach, nurturing a reasonable skepticism toward the world while avoiding hasty judgments that link every event to a conspiracy. C. Communication and disconnection, and the desire for connection. Trastero appears in the form of a secret postal system. While postal service symbolizes communication, Trastero operates in a hidden and encrypted manner, reflecting the deep desire of marginalized or voiceless individuals to connect with one another through their own means. At the same time, characters in the novel often struggle to communicate and remain disconnected. Oedipa experiences limits in her relationships and feels isolated. This reflects the paradox of modern society. While we have access to technologies that enable easy global connectivity, we often find it difficult to form deep relationships and engage in meaningful communication. Through the symbol of Trastero, Pynchon explores the human desire for connection and the vulnerability and imperfection of such connections. D. The aesthetics of entropy and chaos. One of the concepts frequently appearing in Pynchon's works is entropy. Entropy is a physics term describing the degree of disorder or chaos. The scientific principle that the universe moves from order to disorder and from usable energy to unusable energy is deeply reflected in the worldview of the novel. Oedipa's world seems to be losing meaning, fragmenting, and descending further into unpredictability and chaos. However, Pynchon also finds possibilities and aesthetic values within this chaos. Even though Trastero appears chaotic and disordered, it may hide resistance to mainstream society and potential for new order. The novel reminds us that the world is not always structured by perfect logic and order. Sometimes, it is within chaos and uncertainty that new perspectives and creative energy emerge. The message here is to embrace ambiguity and uncertainty rather than striving to understand everything. 3. Why should we read The Crying of Lot 49? A recommendation for those without knowledge or cultivation, this book is undoubtedly challenging. The plot is complex, the language intricate, and a clear answer is rarely found even after finishing the book. Yet, it is precisely in this difficulty that the novel's true value lies. The reason I recommend this book specifically to those without knowledge or cultivation is precisely because of this. A. The fundamental enjoyment of reading. The process of questioning and inquiry. Many view reading as an act of acquiring information or finding answers. However, The Crying of Lot 49 reminds us that the true enjoyment of reading lies in the process of questioning and inquiry itself. The book does not provide answers. Instead, it raises more questions. As you attempt to answer these questions, such as is Oedipa's experience real? Does Trastero actually exist? And if it does, what does it mean? Your thinking will deepen and expand. When you come across parts of the book that are difficult to understand, pause and reflect. Discuss them with others. Reread those parts. This process itself is the most valuable training for expanding your knowledge and cultivation. Don't become discouraged when something doesn't make sense. It's perfectly normal. What matters is the courage to dive into that mystery without giving up and to search for your own answers. B. Cultivating critical thinking and insight into the world. The Crying of Lot 49 helps us develop the ability to view the world critically. It encourages us to question the information presented by media, the truths that society accepts, and the facts asserted by authorities rather than passively accepting them. Developing the habit of asking, is this all there is? Or could there be another story? Is one of the most important intellectual skills in modern society. Through this book, we come to realize that what we see is not always the whole story. There may be multiple interpretations of any given phenomenon. This provides us with deeper insight into the world around us, helping us maintain an open mind and avoid being trapped by single sources of information. C. Practicing coexistence with ambiguity and uncertainty. We generally prefer clarity and certainty. But the real world is not like that. Life is full of uncertainty and ambiguity. This novel confronts you with exactly that uncertainty and ambiguity. Stories without endings and questions without answers might feel uncomfortable, but becoming familiar with this discomfort can turn into a process of gaining life's wisdom. Rather than trying to find perfect answers for everything, it's essential to learn to accept ambiguity and find your own meaning within it. This book conveys the message that it's okay for not every problem in life to be clearly resolved. It helps you develop inner strength to maintain your own center and move forward, even amidst uncertainty. D. Expanding imagination and discovering new perspectives. Pynchon's literature stirs imagination and shakes up traditional ways of thinking. The bizarre characters, surreal events, and intricately woven stories break down our rigid frameworks for viewing the world and offer new perspectives. Reading this book prompts us to ask such questions as, what if the world is different from what I know? Or what if the truths I believe are actually fabrications? These questions infinitely expand our imagination and open up new possibilities in life. What is true knowledge or cultivation? I believe it is not merely knowing a lot of information, but the ability to understand the world's complexity, ask questions, and find your own meaning despite ambiguity. The Crying of Lot 49 provides you with the courage and insight necessary to begin this journey. Conclusion. Beyond the threshold of knowledge, The Crying of Lot 49 will not offer a comfortable reading experience. You might often feel confused and frustrated while reading. However, it is precisely in this confusion and frustration that the door to true knowledge and cultivation is hidden. The world is not built on a single answer. It is complex, ambiguous, and filled with things we can't always understand. This book captures the essence of such a world and encourages our efforts to comprehend its complexity. Through this book, you will not only read a story but also learn to ask fundamental questions about the world, analyze information critically, and develop your own perspective. Just as Oedipus plunges into the mystery to search for answers, this process itself will lead you to significant personal growth. So, have the courage to open The Crying of Lot 49. Within its pages, you will begin a special journey beyond the threshold of knowledge and cultivation, leading to a deeper understanding of the world and a more thoughtful reflection on your own life. I believe this journey will surely enrich and give more meaning to your life.